Top five, top five, top five.
So topical back with another video. I'm Strange Wang. He is Nate doing top 5 superhero origin stories for Shang-Chi. He's got 10 rings.
That's true.
He's like Slick Rick, you know what I'm saying?
The ruler.
Yeah, exactly. Got an eye patch over my third eye like Slick Rick. That's a Lil Wayne lyric. But that's why we're doing that. He's going to tell you about our social media in the description box and how we do this. But first, we was talking to us before the video. The rules we had for our list. Me personally, if 50% of the film is an origin story, I included it.
Yeah. I mean, that's roughly the same for me. Like, my thing was, I didn't include any movie where it's like there's just a snippet of an origin in the beginning. Like, if the whole movie is just kind of like them getting their power or whatever, and then like their first mission where they are like adapting to and then growing into that power, they didn't count it.
Because for me, it was really hard to leave off Batman 89.
Right.
Because it ties into it. Mm-hmm. And it's like one scene.
Yeah.
And then a connection.
No, yeah.
And it's like, oh.
I did the same thing. I didn't throw it in there. I also excluded.
Because I wanted to get nuts.
I also excluded for mine, like people that were already super powered but hadn't necessarily taken on a moniker yet. So like Wonder Woman won't be on my list because she was already what she was, but then she turned into like the character of Wonder Woman. Superman, same thing. So people who were basically already super powered are excluded from my list.
Very interesting. I didn't make that rule. But the social media.
Oh yeah, if you scroll down the description box below and pop it open, you'll find a link to our social media accounts. Go follow us. Sometimes we say funny stuff. Sometimes it's just nice to see my face. And I want to see yours too. So, also, we have links to our Coffee account and our Patreon account. So if you would like to support the channel in a financial way, which we would very much so appreciate, even in the smallest amount, then you can find those links there as well. If you don't know how we do our top 5s, he's going to start with his 5 and 4. I'll give my 5 and 4, 3, 2, 3, 2. Then we trade off number 1s. We also have something called the Zemeckis rule, which just means if we both have the same movie on our list, but one person has it 2 spots or higher, they'll call it Zemeckis, and we won't talk about it until we get to it on theirs. Yeah,
I'm going to start off with my top 5 first because Nate doesn't really have too good a taste. I don't know how good his list will be because he was driving me to a Foursquare game earlier the day, and the whole entire time we had to listen to Billy Ray Cyrus. Bad taste.
Never
bad taste, Nate. But my number 5 probably is Zemeckis because he loves this motherfucker more than his own mother, and it is Iron Man.
Slight Zemeckis.
Okay. Number 4, Captain America. If Chris Williams was here, that would be a Zemeckis.
That's my number 5.
Okay. I'm not a Patriot kind of guy, but I like Captain America because of the dude's got morals. In a system that doesn't have too many morals, he stands out and fights above, and I like that. You get the MCU set up a lot with this because the Bucky storyline goes a long way. He's the main player, and it was just different. It was fresh. When you watch Captain America movies, like any of them, you're not watching a superhero movie. You're watching a movie with a superhero in it.
Yeah.
And this is one of them. This is a war film, which just so happens to have a superhero in it.
Yeah. I agree with that a lot. A lot of this just have so much to do with like who like Steve Rogers is as a person. Like if he doesn't get the super soldier serum, like that dude is going to be Mr. Rogers when he grows up, right?
Yeah, you're probably right.
Just such a great person and a person that the world needs more of. And I love his origin story so much because it also has a lot to say about what happens when we put time, effort, and energy into empowering the right people. And that's why I love his origin story so much.
And that was my 5-4. What is yours?
All right. Well, the first Avenger was my 5. My number 4 is Shazam.
Damn, that's a good one.
I know. Did you not think about it?
No, I forgot.
Oh man.
Shazam.
I think we're well. I don't know. There's some people that just completely shit on it, and then there's some people that insist to defend it. So I'd say we're probably very middle of the road when it comes to critiquing like DC's universe. In that, like, we think it's bad for the most part.
I mean, the movies they put the most pressure on to be good and to like blow the world away, those movies suck.
Yeah.
The ones you don't think is going to be middle of the road, all right, those are the best ones.
Yeah, for sure. But because a lot of them do suck, the ones that stand out, like really stand out, I was so, like, I had just no expectation when we went to see Shazam, and like I had so much fucking fun, man. because it's like you get a coming of age story.
You get big as a superhero.
Yeah, you literally you get big. You get big as a superhero story, and like watching what getting those powers means to this kid who's just kind of been shit on his whole life, and like what he chooses to do with them, and like growing up at the same time, like. It combines two great story elements. It's combining superheroes with coming of age, and they did it really well. They made it super fun. Before I started this video, I could have told you who played Shazam, the adult version, but my brain's not working right now. And
Something Levi.
Zachary Levi. Yeah, he fucking crushed, just like Tom Hanks did, playing like a kid in an adult body, and it felt like that the whole time. And it literally like. The build up to him finally hitting that point of like feeling himself with his powers, like feeling confident in them, was great because it was like a slow, like that's how it would have been in real life, and I liked it.
That was your 4. My number 3 is going to be Deadpool. I'm not a huge comic book movie guy because we just get so many of them, and to me they're dull. Some of them are kind of boring because we get so many of them.
Repetitive.
But this one stands out. Good word. This one stood out, and it was funny. And I don't really like Ryan Reynolds, and then that made it even better because I was like, I don't like you, but like, good fucking job. I give credit where credit's due. This movie's funny. It stood out. It tells this origin story about this man with real problems. He's in love. He just wants his girl back. He doesn't feel like he's good enough. He feels ashamed. He's insecure about the way he looks because he looks like a ball sack. And then they make jokes about that. So you get funny, you get a guy with real problems, and you get some action and comedy all into one. It's a fun movie. It's different. And on top of that, it's a superhero origin because you see him go in, get injected with his powers and everything. He's normal 1 minute. Next time you see him, he looks like Freddy Krueger. What is it? They made a bunch of jokes. It was like you look like a map or some shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, there was one scene where, like, they literally
fucking homies just ripped into him.
Mm-hmm.
Very funny movie. Good origin story. Different from anyone that I have on my list. So because of that, I had to put it on there just because it's like, you stand out so much that I can't ignore you.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was me. Number 2 is going to be Spider-Man. But which one? The first one, 2002.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's also my number 2.
Yay!
I hope we have to say number 1. Probably not.
I really hope we have to say number 1.
So, this for me, who grew up watching the 90s Spider-Man, was everything. I was in awe. I was like, this motherfucker's alive. He's doing tricks. He's a nerd. He can't see. And then Uncle Ben dies. You get the full origin story in this movie. You get the emotion. You get the teenage angst. You get everything you want from Spider-Man in this movie. And it's a perfect Spider-Man movie, I would say. It's hard to beat it. I know, like, people are like, yeah, like, it's aged a bunch. And maybe it's my nostalgia talking. But you have Spider-Verse, Spider-Man, and then everything else, to me.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with everything that you said about that movie.
That's an origin movie too, then, isn't it?
I think it is really hard to beat. No spoilers. I think it is really hard to beat. Like, in that, I agree with you. I think that the O2 Spider-Man is pretty much a perfect Spider-Man movie. I mean, Spider-Man 2 is also great.
Like, the character of Spider-Man is perfect.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a lot of those elements that we talked about. Like, he's a high school student. He's awkward. He's shy. Like, things that I can definitely relate to from how I was when I was in high school.
Nerd alert!
He's the once you get to know him guy, you realize that, like, he's actually really, like, he's a good dude. So it's another one of those examples of, like, what happens when you give the right person these, like, powers, right? But Peter's is great because, like, Peter isn't as perfect of a person as Steve Rogers is because he's a high school kid. So, like, he makes mistakes, it goes to his head a little bit. But just getting to watch him, like, grow into that. And then, obviously, like, the big thing with Spider-Man is that, like, almost every single one of his villains somehow ties into his personal life. Like, add that element in there with that, too. So it's like, I'm changing as a person. I'm changing because now I have superpowers. And all of that is just fucking up everything else in my life. Like, it's a lot for someone to deal with. And the fact that movie really is kind of entirely just like one long origin story for him, I think is really cool. I like it a lot.
Yeah, because those villains are in his life personally. There's just so much weight and tension with that as well. Mm-hmm. And it plays back into who Peter is as a person. He's in high school.
Yeah.
The confusion that comes with that. And, the should I do it, should I not type thing. Yeah. So that's beautiful, but on to your number 3.
Yeah. So one more thing on that, because it's going to be important in a second. Like, you were absolutely right. Like, everything that is in the 2002 Spider-Man is everything that you could want from a Spider-Man movie. So hold on to that. My number 3 is going to be the Zemeckis from earlier. It's Iron Man. Definitely, it's like, to me, this is the one that's different on my list because he doesn't actually have superpowers, right? He's just really smart and can make shit. But it's like, it gets lost the further you go into the MCU. But when you go back and think about like that first Iron Man movie, like by the end of like, phase 4 was the end. I don't know. I can't remember. I get lost in the phases. But by the end of it, Endgame, it's like you kind of expect Tony Stark to just kind of come up with the thing. Like he's gonna find the thing, right? But in that first movie, he was just a spoiled little bitch who got trapped in a cave. And he got put in this situation where he had to make a decision. Am I just gonna keep being a little bitch, or am I gonna do something about it?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say his decision was, does he become Iron Man? Does he become Captain Caveman?
Wow. Nice.
That's
That's pretty funny.
He's a badass motherfucker.
That's actually pretty funny. But yeah, he chose to do something about it. And then like throughout all the films that he is in, from that point, it's like you just get to watch him take these like more and more steps into like becoming the good person that we kind of always wanted him to be, right? But that first one where he's like navigating this, deciding what to do it, the movie literally ends with him just like announcing that he is Iron Man. So, like, to me, this is the best origin story in the MCU to date.
The motherfucker had a song made about him 30 years beforehand, too. Shit's crazy. To me, it made the MCU.
Yeah, no, it did.
So, like, for that alone, that's the only reason why it made my list, because of the impact that movie made. Yeah. It was like, this motherfucker's so cool, so badass. They're like, fuck it, we need 39 more movies about superheroes that all relate to this cocksucker. Done. Pretty impressive.
That is what happened in a very crude nutshell.
You're not wrong.
But nutshell. That is what happened.
So, my number 1, I'm going to preface this. Every movie on my list I've seen more than once. The movie that was really good, Shazam, I've only seen that movie once. And I feel like I've only seen your number 1 once as well.
That's a shame.
Which is why I forgot about it.
That's a shame.
But my number 1 is an animated movie. Is Batman, Mask of the Phantasm. You get this really great story of how Batman became Batman in that beautiful Batman animated series art style and everything. You see him fall in love. You see such a deeper version of Batman than we got in the cartoon. And then what goes around comes around like a hula hoop, because they all come back into his life, and you just see this fucking hardened, badass, mature Batman who don't take no shit off the Joker. But, like, you can tell, like, he is, like, this stone cold wall of, like, emotion. Like, nothing's touching him. Nothing's hitting him. Yeah. And then the Phantasm comes into his life, and it just fucks his world up. So you see this character that we, like, loved in the fucking animated series. The only person that really got to him was, like, Joker on a couple occasions, and Scarecrow because...
Well, when you start kidnapping people...
Gas.
Fucking with them, then...
But... this one, it's like, you're the love of my life, and I don't want to lose you again. And it just takes that into like adult perspective. And there's so many layers to this movie. It's incredible. 50% of the movie I feel like is an origin story, which is why I allowed it to be on my list.
With all the flashbacks and everything. Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I'll be honest with you. I forgot about that. I've just never thought of it as an origin story.
Really?
But like, I agree with your point. Like, I would have put it on my list.
He wasn't Batman when he was beating up them bikers.
Yeah, but it's probably the most unique pick out of any of our lists, because the origin story isn't like great. It doesn't start there and go. It's like you get it through these flashbacks, because we know this character. We've had however many seasons of an animated TV show with him by now. So like, I love that pick. I think that's great.
Yeah. And I've seen it more than once, which is why I made my list. It's complex. It was great as a kid. I grew up and it became greater because it is more adult oriented. So to me, that was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I forgot about your number one though.
It's okay, which is really sad because
It's over there.
it's over there. There's a picture. Yeah, so my number one, if you hadn't guessed, is Into the Spider-Verse. Like I said, hang on to that thought. Because, yes, the 2002 Spider-Man is everything that I could want from a Spider-Man movie. And then the Spider-Verse came out. And then it gave me everything that I wanted from a Spider-Man origin story. And then a whole bunch of shit that I didn't even know that I wanted in a Spider-Man origin story. Like multiple Spider-Men, who like give us very little quick snippets of their origin stories when they get introduced. And this beautiful fucking art style. And like to me the most like relatable, like Miles in the Spider-Verse is like the most relatable like human to his Spider-Man, right? Like they do such a good job of like just selling that awkwardness of the high schooler, except now it's in like a more current generation. And not even the generation that I went to high school in, but like I love the generation underneath me more than I love my own sometimes. So I think that's part of why I love him so much. But like the way that like the Prowler relates into his life, his relationship with his dad, knowing what happens to his dad in some stories, like even though it doesn't happen in the Spider-Verse, like knowing what happens to Miles' dad in some storylines, it just adds to it for me. But like literally the entire movie is just him sucking at this. Like, and that's real life. And I think that that's a lesson that needs to be taught more, is that like you're not just going to pick shit up and be good at it. And that was a really hard lesson for me to learn. And I still really fucking hate it when I start something new and I'm not instantly good at it. It really drives me nuts to the point to where like it will make me want to fucking quit. But like Miles kind of deals with some of that same stuff, in that it's like you just have to accept that things take time. But like if you don't put in the time, you're just not going to get there. And if you get all self-defeatist about it, then you're definitely not going to get there.
That's a fact.
So to me, that's like what an origin story is. It's just like overcoming that self-doubt and accepting like who you really are. And that's a big thing to me. So Spider-Verse, number one. Big fan.
Yeah. We could probably do this list in 5 years. And like probably a lot different. But tell us your...
Maybe.
Huh?
I said maybe. I really like these movies.
I mean, I would definitely put Shazam and Spider-Verse on my list.
I would put Phantasm on mine.
And I feel like there's going to be at least one more that comes out that's going to shock our list probably. Because like it may make so many of them. But tell us what you think down in the comment section below. What's your top 5? Scroll back up. Hit the like button. Share the video so all your friends can see how great we are and how great and forgetful our movie opinions are when it comes to superhero origins. And don't forget to, most importantly, subscribe. We're trying to hit 5K by the end of the year.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.